Hey, what's up? This is DJ Thunderous. I'm so happy to be here with Zach from the awesome band Dead Animal Assembly Plant. How's it going, Zach?
It's going all right. Just hanging in there. How about you guys?
We're doing good here. You know, we're sitting home, social distancing, doing what we got to do.
Yeah, doing the best I can at that too, given the circumstances.
Yeah.
Getting antsy though, not gonna lie.
I can imagine, but I'm sure you have a lot going on, and you know you're keeping busy. Hopefully.
Yeah. We have a few irons in the fire, so definitely keeping busy during this lockdown.
That's cool. Could you give everyone a history of the band, please?
Sure. So the band history kind of has two different histories. There's the mythology, and then there's the literal band history. So the quick summation of the mythology is that back in the 1800s, there was the sweetmeat slaughterhouse that was run by a German immigrant named Wilhelm Schroeder, who industrialized meat processing. When the town fell on hard times and the cattle began to mysteriously die, he decided to feed the local townspeople to the machines to continue his business. Once the townspeople found out, they fed him to the machines. And then the sweetmeat slaughterhouse remained empty for quite a long time until strange noises started emanating from it, and that's where we came from.
That's awesome.
So that's the storyline. So the band was originally formed back in 2007. It was a solo side project for me, actually. And as the years progressed, it was just me for a while, just kind of tinkering around. And then when I wanted to start doing live shows, I'm like, well, I don't want it to be just me. I don't want it to be just karaoke. So I cobbled together some friends of friends, and we kind of just, it's good. And let's start doing live shows. And been doing it since March of 2011 was our first live show.
Wow, what was that like, your first live show? Was it all you expected?
It was fun. Nothing went wrong, which was surprising. We played with this French metal industrial band named Abjang Getchop. I'm probably butchering their name. And they were really nice to us. And when we told them, hey, yeah, this was our very first show, they were pretty surprised. So it went out pretty well, surprisingly enough.
That's cool. Now, can you tell everybody that, well, you already just gave us the history of the band, but why you decided to go with Dead Animal Assembly Plant, and what did you want your band concept to be?
So, in time in memoriam, I've always been like a drama nerd. It's always drama, and like acting was always a way for me to be me without having to actually be me. So it was a way for me to kind of like get all these other personalities out. Because believe it or not, I was actually really shy, really introverted, didn't like talking to anyone. So that kind of gave me a platform to be something different. So that, and being a horror nerd, that was kind of like my natural inclination was to do something theatrical. So, the name itself, just kind of jump around, the name, Dead Animal Assembly Plant is actually the name of a business license that you have to get in the state of Oregon in order to transport or store animal carcasses legally. So, when I saw that, just randomly one day looking at different business licenses, I thought it was such an absurd concept or such an absurd name that I knew I wanted to have a band called that. So the band name came first, just randomly, and then I knew, because I was really inspired by bands like Skinny Puppy or like Nine Inch Nails or early Manson or Rob Zombie, where it was not just music, it was an experience, especially when you would go see them live. So I knew from the beginning I wanted to incorporate a really heavy horror influence and theatric element pulling from just kind of who I've always been and then the music was just kind of an experimentation until kind of developed a sound that seemed to fit.
That's really cool to know that. And just from when sorry, I wasn't even talking into the mic there. Jeez. When we first saw you guys, I was like, oh, this band is so amazing. I can't even, it's just, I had to stare at you guys in the video with Rise. Wow, it was amazing.
Oh, well, thank you.
My next question is, which we get a lot of times, what specific genre do you think you guys fit in?
It's a good question. And it's, and I get why people want to understand, what a band's sound is, especially if they're looking at them and they have a perception of what a band's going to sound like based on how they look or the name. And it's always been something where we never wanted to pigeonhole ourselves, we're this, we're that. But just kind of at a base level, I just say we're just horror industrial metal, because we never lean too far into one specific genre. We definitely love metal, we love industrial, but there's always going to be that electronic element to it. But on the new album, we even experimented with doing stuff that's more rockabilly or things that's a little more experimental or that mechanical kind of industrial sound, and then going into a loose form, more metal sound. So we want to give ourselves the kind of the freedom to jump around and explore different ideas without people being like, well, you can't do that because you just said you were a metal band or you were this band, so that's not the definition of this. So it's hard to try to define it, but I guess just industrial metal, which is such a ubiquitous kind of term anyway.
I guess you could just say you're Dead Animal Assembly Plant.
Yeah, there we go.
That'll sum it up.
That gives us enough confusing looks in and of itself, so I guess that works.
So who are all the current members right now? I know you had a couple of additions, I saw.
Yeah, it's been an interesting flux of members over the years for various reasons. The current lineup, me, of course, Zach, hooray. And there's Rebecca, who was originally she did a lot of the artwork for the band, and then she moved to bass in 2015, and then now she's guitar.
Oh.
So there's Rebecca on guitar. There's Eric, who's on second guitar. He used to be the drummer. Then he moved to guitar, so now we have two guitarists. We have Nick on bass. He's the newest member of the band. And then we have Jason on drums, who I've known him for a long time. We go way back to doing Body Suspension performances together. So
wow,
it's actually wonderful guy. Yeah, he's an amazing person, and he actually does all the metal work in the band, like the mic stand. He made this tambourine that I play that could literally decapitate someone. So he's a pretty amazing artist and drummer.
Yeah, I saw some of the mic stands. They're pretty awesome. They're very cool looking, and I think I saw your tambourine in a video, if I remember.
It may have made a cameo appearance. I remember.
An appearance, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of your, I know you already gave us your personal influences. Who are some of your musical influences besides, Zombie and the other bands that you had mentioned?
For me personally, a lot of, because that's being the vocalist, I'm just really heavy into lyrics and what you can do with, how you can express things in different ways without necessarily being super straightforward. So, lyricists like Tom Waits really influenced me. This guy named Jim Thurwell, who has this band named Fetus. Raymond Watts, who has his band named Pig. Mm-hmm. They're all were such amazing lyricists in the way that they frame things. I definitely drew a lot of inspiration with just their descriptions and how flowery they would write their lyrics.
That's cool. Now, do you guys give yourself certain names when you're on stage? Besides, you being Zach, and then there's Rebecca, or, your Dead Animal Assembly Plant names. Do you have certain names for each other?
We stage names. Well, the funny thing is, everyone has a stage name except for me. Sometimes maybe I'll just call myself the Butcher, or way early on in the band, I would call myself der Metzgermeister, which is German for the Master Butcher. But nothing really it felt right, so generally I just call myself Zach or Z Wager. Mm-hmm. But Rebecca has, her nickname is Buzz, which was actually a nickname that her family gave to her when she was a kid. So she just really loved that name, so she kept it for the stage name, and it seemed pretty appropriate for Dead Animal Assembly Plant. Eric goes by Zero, which is the name that he came up with. Nick just does like a variation of his name, goes by Nix. And Jason really liked the word Scorn, so he goes by Scorn.
That's cool. I figured, you guys are playing different parts when you're being in the band, that you must have different names. I don't know why. I just thought that.
No, I mean, and you're right. I mean, it makes it easier when you have like this persona, and you have like the makeup and the mask and the costumes. It does kind of give it a complete story to have a name. For some reason, I just haven't quite found one that I felt really strong about. One day, maybe.
I'll start thinking about things and names for you. Maybe I could come up with something.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, man, yeah, let's have like a contest. Like, give me a stage name.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? So, what's it like being Dead Animal Assembly Plant? Like when you're on stage, or playing a show somewhere, and
it really is such an interesting experience. Being on stage, it's really, of all the drug use that I've done, which is pretty ample, nothing beats the high of being on stage. It's such a surreal experience because it's like the concept of like time, everything just drops, and all your nervousness and all the fear and anxiety, which, even after performing all these years, it still happens. Whether you're playing in front of 5 people or 500 people, 5,000 people, there's still that like the anxiety of like, just want everything to go right. Is everything going to go right? You want to do a good job.
Right.
But the minute you go on stage, everything just drops and you just go into that performance mode. And it does make it easier being in like full costume, full makeup, to kind of slip into that performance mind state that no matter what, at this point, this is what I need to do. And it's fun. Like it's such a catharsis because it's just this absolute purge of all your anxiety and anger and fear and depression. You can just get it all out there, and then you can share it with everyone. And that's such an important part of performing live, and the big reason why we do it, and the big reason why we keep going, is the support that we get from people. And nothing's better than being on stage and you're exchanging this energy with people with music that you wrote, which is really cool, because it's like, this is music that means something to you, and you're just on a whim, hopefully, sharing it with everyone, and then they receive it. And when you see people connect on that level with music that you make, there's nothing like it. It's just such an unreal experience. And it's funny, because like live is such a different experience for us, dealing with people and talking to people and interacting with people, like in person than online. It's such a difference, because in person people are way easier to talk to and way easier to see eye to eye on things and just communicate and interact and have an experience. Or online, there's such a disconnect that there's a lot of layers of cynicism and garbage that you have to kind of peel away before you can get to the real person.
That's true.
So
and typing too. You can't think what someone's really saying when they're typing, because it's just typing.
Yeah, and I think, and this is an observation, and maybe it's an eye roll kind of observation, but I feel like bands that do wear masks or costume makeup, especially online, they get a lot of crap. they get a lot of flack from people. There's definitely this kind of cynicism, it's like pessimistic cynicism towards bands that do masks and makeup, because there's a lot of people, they automatically will be like, oh, well, you're just trying to be a Manson ripoff? What is this, Slipknot? You know, it's just like, okay, well, theatrics have been around a lot longer than Manson and Slipknot, sorry. But, you know, I get why people's minds go to that, so I think people put this wall up. You know, instantly, they'll see a picture of us and like, oh, who are these jokers? Whereas if it was just, you know, maybe 5 people dressed in t-shirts and jeans, they'd be like, oh, well, I'm going to listen to this band and then I'm going to make an opinion. It's an interesting dynamic, because live, you don't have that. You know, either people, they see you for what you are, and they either love you or they hate you, but at least they're approaching it with some degree of open-mindedness, where online it's just, forget it, everyone's just a keyboard warrior.
Well, I noticed, like, in your I'm going to mention Rise again because it's my favorite song by you guys, but I noticed in your video that you guys connect as a band. It's not just you, and it's not just Rebecca, and it's just not, you know what I mean? It's everybody together, and you guys are just great. You connect really good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of energy. It's crazy.
And I can admit it's not always been that way. I mean, on stage, we've always had that kind of energy dynamic, but it's definitely been a lot of growing pains, and the more positive energy has taken a while to cultivate through out some band members that weren't necessarily jiving with everything, and that's important. It's important for me, even though this was my baby, my brainchild, for something to kind of grow and be dynamic and be something that everyone can kind of relate to. It's like everyone needs to have their imprint. Right. Everyone needs to feel a part of it. They can't just be like, oh, I'm the band leader and you have to listen to me. It's like, no, everyone creates their own characters in the band. Everyone creates their own personas, and we all help each other, but everyone, is, I don't say responsible, but everyone kind of keeps that, holds that character design and backstory to themselves, so then they can build on it, so then they can bring their unique energy, whether it's on a video or on stage or to the song in the studio too, because everyone works on the song. Oh yeah, I can tell. It's just like I said, you guys are right there with each other, and it just seems like you're a big family. It is definitely family. We love each other to death. We're still friends, even outside the band. We talk and we joke around. So fortunately, it hasn't gotten to that point of that awkward, oh, well, we're just a band and we're just doing this and going through the motions, and actually still genuinely like each other, which is nice. And then you guys must all make the decisions together, I would think. For the most part, it's definitely a democracy. We all have a vote. Most decisions they'll leave up to me though, because they either trust what I'm gonna do, or there's I'll just, yes, we're fine with it. Everyone's pretty laid back, so it's not too hard to come to decisions. That's cool. All right, we're gonna take a break here and let everyone listen to Rise with me, because that's my favorite, and let's crank it up. Well, thank you. Enjoy, everyone.
Hell yeah, that was just Rise with Me. That's how we first acquired Dead Animal Assembly Plant, actually. We saw your video online, and we were, like I said, hooked. As soon as we saw it, I was like, we want them. We need to hear this band more and more.
Thank you. Yeah, Carl did such an amazing job in that video. That was my first time ever really getting to know Carl, and he instantly just understood where I was going with the vision, and he just elevated it to a whole nother level, and it was just so great working with him that we just kept working with him.
That's cool. Let's give Carl Winnery a huge shout out from Metal Devastation Radio. I saw that your new video, and it's really killer.
Thank you. Yeah, A Violent Breed was, again, Carl did such an amazing job, and it's funny because we've done 3 music videos with him, and we're all under completely different environmental circumstances and all completely uncomfortable and miserable. It's like something that is like continuous with us. It's like, oh, if we have to be really uncomfortable and really miserable, if it's not that, then it's not a DAP music video shoot.
Right, you guys went through a lot to get that video done too. Wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience because it was everyone there was volunteer, and for some reason they decided to all caravan together out in the middle of nowhere in eastern Oregon and camp out overnight in this weird farmland area and just start filming the next day with heat and bees, and it's terrible.
Now, where did you guys shoot the video?
Eastern Oregon, the Pacific Northwest in general has a lot of ghost towns and a lot of little remnants of the time past. So Eastern Oregon has a bunch of ghost town areas. So there is this little unincorporated part called Friend, Oregon, which is kind of funny. It's just a collection of some farmhouses, but there's a few buildings there from the turn of the century. And the building that we filmed in was a single-room schoolhouse from the late 1800s into the early 1900s that they still use today as a community center. So it's not locked and it's open. Mm-hmm. And as we were filming, occasionally the locals would drive past and they would stop and be like curious, of course, because who are all these people in costume and makeup and instruments, and but they were really nice. We would always go talk to them and tell them what was going on, and they didn't pay us any mind, and they were very sweet about it. So that was very pleasant.
You should have given them a CD. Here you go.
If you had any CDs at the time.
Yep. And tell them you can play it at your community center.
But I did give them the shout out on the YouTube page, and in the comments I gave the people of Friend, Oregon a shout out because that was very cool of them.
That is cool. And I saw in the video that it says Friend School on the top in the little where the peak is of the school. And I was like, what is Friend School? Well, I guess I know now.
Yep. Friend, Oregon. It's if anyone out there happens to be in the area or taking a trip out here, I highly recommend going to Eastern Oregon, checking out some of the ghost towns there. They're really interesting, but just be respectful because it's pretty quiet out there.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's like a low population, right?
Oh yeah, very low.
Wow. All right, well, speaking of the video, let's check out that track. Here's A Violent Breed. Crank it up. Hell yeah, that was a violent breed. Let us know what you think, folks. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always excited to hear feedback from new songs, new videos. Constructive criticism is always welcome, although people don't like to be that constructive. They just like to throw insults, which is also fun.
Yeah, oh, isn't that lovely, right?
It is. Yeah, well, I mean, I always tell myself, never read the comments. You'll just, beat yourself up over it.
Exactly. I've heard that a lot, and especially that people that care about their music and, what kind of impression they're making on people. Sometimes it means a lot to people, and others, they're like, whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the times I've noticed this observationally that people who speak the loudest levels of criticism are often the ones doing the least amount. So it's like, I get it. I get what you're doing.
So you have this new upcoming album coming out. What's the name of the album, and how many tracks are on it, and what's the concept for the album?
So the album is Bring Out the Dead, which the album title came from one of the lines of the song. So when we were knocking around different album title names, we just were going back and forth, and nothing really worked. And so I was just like, well, the intro track is a track called Cemetery Slums, and Bring Out the Dead is one of the lines. And so I'm like, well, this kind of perfectly encapsulates what the album represents. So everyone was on board for that. And now this seems pretty topical. So there's 10 tracks, and it is kind of a loose narrative, not a full-on concept album. Mm-hmm. So I don't want anyone to think there's like a very defined storyline there, but it is it starts with this track, Cemetery Slums, which a cemetery slum are these, basically these towns, these cities, these populations of people who live in cemeteries. And they live and coexist with the dead on a daily basis. And they do this for a number of socioeconomic reasons, living in cemeteries. So the album opens up with that, and so it's kind of like opening up the gates to a cemetery and saying, hey, welcome in. And then the album kind of progresses down almost like a Dante's Inferno kind of thing of traveling down and down and down and down into the depths until you hit the bottom. And then you start right back at the top again.
Yep, that's cool. So I know you guys wear, your costumes and your makeup and things like that. Are you going to switch it up for this new album?
We are definitely. We're always. I guess that's kind of one thing about us is we're all a little ADD about our makeup and our costumes. We don't like to stick with any one thing for too long. I mean, there's some staples that we like to hold on to. For me, there's certain masks I just love, and I don't want to get rid of those or swap them out, or certain pieces of my outfit that I'll always, throw on stage at some point. But we're working on changing up our makeup, changing up our costume, and even doing some upgrades to our mic stand, building more props with this downtime. We're going to try to do as much as we can in terms of boosting our live shows, so when we are able to do shows again, that we can bring some new elements to it.
Now, are you guys endorsed with a company that provides your costumes and makeup, or do you make your costumes? How do you guys, come about with that?
So we don't have any endorsements by any makeup Although any makeup people are listening and they want to endorse us, I am happy to do that. So our costumes, it's kind of a hodgepodge of stuff that we've made, and some of the more brutal pieces of our costumes are made by this independent clothing line called Scene Sick. And they're a married couple based out of Ohio. They're the sweetest people. We got to meet them when we were on tour last year. And their stuff is amazing. So we're kind of like their official, unofficial band. Because we've been buying stuff from them since the beginning of Scene Sick. So it's been very mutually beneficial. And we'll definitely continue working with them. I've been talking to them about, some custom pieces, because everything they make for us is custom, which is really sweet.
That is cool.
So but we also like building our own stuff. That way, the one thing and one of the problems that you run into is that when you do work through other people, is they have a certain style. And so you're going to start seeing that style with other people, because that's, it seems like it has a very specific style. So, okay, well, we want to still try to maintain something that's uniquely ours. So we're working on kind of, with the limited skills that we have in that world, we're working on building different parts of our costume.
That's cool. That's something good to know. I've always wondered that, because, it's so neat how you guys do your makeup and your costumes and things.
The makeup is definitely something that everyone develops their own makeup. Everyone does their own makeup, and everyone kind of tries to evolve what they're drawing their inspiration from for the makeup. So it's like Jason, for example, he's Native American, so he draws on a lot of his tribe's makeup into his stage makeup. So things like that.
Cool. All right, we're going to check out the last track here. Here is Death and Taxidermy. Crank it up.
I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. I believe in evil. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God. I believe in evil.
All right, that was Death and Taxidermy. You want to tell us about that track, please?
Yeah, so Death and Taxidermy is an instrumental B-side that originally, so this is, I guess, something that has been stories of how the COVID thing has affected us. This year, Eric and I were going to be performing as this thing called Oddities Flea Market in Los Angeles, the Globe Theater. The Oddities Flea Market is this really amazing, enormous show of all these different artists that do like curioso, weird art, antiques, antiquities. It's this couple, Regina and Ryan Cohen, out of New York. They successfully started it there, and so then they started doing more in other cities, and we have a relationship with them because in 2018, Eric and I did a show for them at their place called the House of Wax for this art exhibit for this these Belgian artist Mothmeister.
Yep.
So we established a relationship with them through that, and so then they asked us if we wanted to perform for Oddities, and that was going to be the first weekend of April. Yeah, and it got postponed, but pretty sure that the date it got postponed to is not going to happen either, considering how everything's going. So Eric and I sat down, we wrote a handful of instrumental tracks that we were going to perform at the Oddities Flea Market. And so Death and Taxidermy was one of them that we wrote together to perform. And when the new label that we signed to wanted to have a single for A Violent Breed, they wanted a few B-sides, and we happened to have a few, so we're like, oh, well, we might as well just use two instrumentals that we wrote for the Oddities Flea Market that we can't use for a while, and then just have that a part of the single.
Oh, that's really cool. I've heard of them in New York, right, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw a program with some of the things on there and what they collect and how they do it, and the guy drives around, I believe, in a car. Or a hearse. I'm trying to remember.
Probably.
And it's really cool. It was really
they're
interesting.
They're very sweet. Their stuff is insane. Like I can't even wrap my mind around the stuff that they collect. Because Ryan was on that old show Oddities. And then they're a fantastic couple. They're very sweet, and they've always been really nice to us and supportive. So whenever everything opens back up and they have the flea market, rest assured that we'll be there and can't wait to drink and get crazy with everyone.
Oh, I'm sure, because that show is amazing. Oddities. Yeah, I think that's the one that we watched, actually. And then once you watch it once, you got to go back to it because it's just amazing.
Yeah, all the wacky stuff, all the knowledge. And that's the thing is, like, Ryan is just a wealth of this crazy knowledge of history, of medical history, art history, and anthropology. They're both incredible.
That's cool. So, what are you guys doing right now? Are you practicing or, doing anything together as a band?
So we don't spend too much time together as a band now, unfortunately, because of everything. We see each other every once in a while. We are just trying to be cautious. We did do a live streaming show a little bit ago for an online festival, which definitely seems to be the thing now. And I get it. You have to get your music fixed somehow, and it's not the same as performing in front of people. It's certainly fun to still dress up and play music.
Right.
So we're all just kind of working on our own stuff. We're working on new music. The collaboration that I'm working on with the artist Mothmeister right now. So keeping busy with that. There's another band that I was in briefly that I wrote a bunch of tracks with that I'm going to start working on that again. Just definitely going to just have to keep things going. Can't stay stagnant because stagnancy is...
Yeah. It gets
in my opinion.
boring.
Super boring.
Yep. So when do you guys plan on releasing the new album? I didn't get to ask you that.
So it's kind of up in the air because of the pandemic. The label wanted to release it around tour, so we could support the album, which makes sense. We're a new signing for them, and even though we've been doing this for a while, we're still working our way up. So I appreciate the confidence that they have in us by signing us, but I also respect the fact that they need to kind of hedge their bets and realize, like, okay, well, in order to do album sales, you need to get into people's hands physically. That's still such a big part of it. Mm-hmm. So we haven't been able to lock down an exact release date for it because of everything that's going on and so much uncertainty.
Right.
Although, considering everyone saying that live music is just not coming back until next year or who knows, well, I'll have to work with them and solidifying a release date, but we'll at least have one more single before the album comes out.
All right. Well, we look forward to the new music and the album being released and airing some Dead Animal Assembly Plant on our station, and tell people to come on over and they can always request you guys here.
Yeah, I appreciate your support. You guys have been supporting us for a number of years. Everyone over at Metal Devastation has been amazing, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, because it's, everyone gets that low point in their head, and they're like, oh, why am I bother doing this? This is pointless. It's a stop. But then when you kind of pull your head out and you realize how much you connect with people on it and how much people are supporting you and have your back, it's truly inspiring. So I just want to say thank you to you guys personally and to everyone out there that has been supporting us all these years. I didn't think you would go this far. I didn't think it would last this long, to be honest. So it's I feel pretty honored. And
I feel honored interviewing you, actually, I have to say. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you guys. You guys are the best, and it's been a long time coming for this interview, so I'm glad that we could finally do it.
Amen to that. Could you do a shout out for the radio station, please?
Absolutely. This is Zach from Dead Animal Assembly Plant. You're tuned into the Thunderhead Show at MetalDevastationRadio.com, where metal reigns supreme.